Hello, so here's the scene that we'll be starting with, which is pretty basic at the moment. Basically, it's got the alley as an environment. So I'll just make sure to include the geometry for that. And then the drone is a little bit more complex at the moment because I'm using basically the standard drone model and I'm making some tweaks here. And then I'm making some groups so that I can do the animation on it because I did the animation here in Houdini. So I'll probably end up writing this out to be our base geometry and cache for that. But that should be fine. You don't need to worry about everything here because this is how you would expect to get an animated asset anyway. Something strange about the colors in this scene. That's just the lighting, okay. And then I've got a few lights here which by default I have disabled in the viewport. And I have an open GL light so that I can actually see something. And this I just need to make sure is always excluded in the mantra. So we never want to render that light, we just want to render the environment light and the two spotlights. And nothing fancy here, this is just a sky in the environment, and spotlights I've got a point light here in this lamp. Let's have a look at that quickly. So I have that to add some extra light to the scene. And then I have a spotlight pointing down the street here. So we don't really need to view that. And that shouldn't need to change. I've already done a render test when I set this lighting up. So that's all fine. And then I have an effects decloak geo here. And what I've done is I've just loaded in that animated cache. I've cleaned up the attributes and I've written it out. So from the next video, we'll be working from this point here, directly on that geometry. There's nothing else in this scene. The only other thing is a camera, and I've got my null, which just has my path here that I want to use for my ROPs. Color settings are the same in terms of LUT, except I've used a new configuration here for the gamma. So I'm only applying these color settings to the viewport, to flipbooks, and that. And it's set to 1 because at the 2.2 my ramps, the color in my color ramps wasn't matching what I was seeing in the render view with the LUT on. So it doesn't really matter really, as long as you finalize your ramps, if you're doing shading especially, with the render view and you have the LUT, the correct LUT here that you're using in the comp, it doesn't really matter. So this is more just making things all look at least somewhat correct. And that's the basic scene. So for the next 4 weeks we'll be jumping around in this scene, making the decloak and the shockwave effects, the EMP. So let's carry on, and I'll start in the next video and we'll start the effects properly. So I'll see you then.